particular job in exchange for payment is an employee, but there are different kinds of employees. In some countries, employers are required by law to do certain things like obey minimum wage laws, provide a safe workplace, and sometimes pay tax. Employers also have to give their official employees benefits like paying for health insurance. Because of this, some employers like to hire independent contractors to do work instead of regular employees. In the United States, a worker is an employee if their employer gets to tell them what to do, how to do, and when to do it in a material way, and an independent contractor if they get to make their own decisions about how to do what the employer wants. The relationship between employer and employee is different from that between the firm and a customer or client. An employee usually has to provide a resume and have an interview before being offered a job. Entrepreneurs are artists, artists in the true sense of the word, as in artists like musicians, artists like painters. Entrepreneurship is more than a job title, it's a state of mind. An entrepreneur challenges the status quo and attempts to solve problems and create value by taking something fundamentally new but fraught with uncertainty and risk to the world. Entrepreneurship is the creation of extraction of value. With this definition, entrepreneurship is viewed as change, generally entailing risk beyond what is normally encountered in starting a business, which may include other values than simply economic ones. More narrow definitions have described entrepreneurships as the process of designing, launching, and running a new business, which is often similar to a small business, or as capacity and willingness to develop, organize, and manage a business venture along with any of its risks to make a profit. The people who create these businesses are often referred to as entrepreneurs, while definitions of entrepreneurship typically focus on the launching and running of businesses due to the high risk involved in launching a startup. A significant proportion of startup businesses have to close due to lack of funding, bad business decisions, government policies, and economic crisis, lack of market demand, or a combination of all of these. In the field of economics, the term entrepreneur is used for an entity which has the ability to translate inventions or technologies into products and services. In this sense, entrepreneurship describes activities on the part of both established firms and new businesses. There are numerous attributes and behaviors that are underpin entrepreneurship. High tolerance for ambiguity and risk, hustle and resilience, and therefore persistence, adaptability, thinks critically, creative, associational thinker, seeing what others don't see as a result, questions, things, and challenges the status quo, observant and curious about everything, purpose-driven and passionate, not the same things, knows how to leverage effectively people, technology, and other assets, commits and takes ownership over their decisions, dynamism, fast-moving. So can an employee be an entrepreneur? Now, to determine whether an employee can truly become an entrepreneur, we can map these key attributes to the realities of being an employee in an established organization. One can indeed demonstrate entrepreneurial attributes at such a company, but they would struggle to take ownership and run with their decisions, as most decisions, regardless of how inconsequential they might be, usually require multiple parties to come to the table, numerous meetings and dreaded committees. This drastically slows down the doing, learning, and adapting to new information that is central to early stage entrepreneurship. An employee is more likely to find themselves in an environment that is the antithesis of the entrepreneurial environment, low uncertainty, a proven business model, millions, if not billions, in revenues, a regular paycheck regardless of performance, access to financial, technological, human, brand resources. So to discuss this very important aspect, whether employee can become entrepreneur or the employee to entrepreneur, uh, the journey, the road, we have a very elite and expert, those who are authority in this field, panelist with us. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest. He is Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is the former professor of marketing, innovation, and management, IIM Lucknow, Accelerate Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is president of Indo-Gulf Management Association. And before I will hand over, ask him to speak, I would like to inform that today's program is especially been organized by Indo-Gulf Management Association. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, please.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't think anybody could have handled the introduction of the two key terms, employees and entrepreneurs, so deftly as you have done, in terms of not only bringing out the highlights of each, but also finding the differences between the two so that we can set the stage for us to discuss how do we map the journey from being an employee to an entrepreneur. If I would like to add to what you are saying and extend the things that you have said, then I would say here that the journey from employee to entrepreneur has gone through several evolving stages. It has evolved through several stages. Stage number one was where an employee was considered a fool when he went from being an employee to an entrepreneur. The people within the family, people outside the family, in the family network, they thought that this person has gone nuts. That why is he going from a preset salary, preset conditions, everything is so well doing, and he is chucking all it away for something which he himself or she herself doesn't know. So that is number one stage. Number two stage was that where it was seen as a stigma. The stigma was that, oh, this man must have fought with his boss, or this boss must be asking something this person doesn't have. And as a result, this person is leaving because he couldn't handle it. And in order to hide his own shame, the person is providing a little bit more glorifying picture of being an entrepreneur. So that was the second stage. And the third stage is, which I consider the golden age of individual entrepreneurship in the world. In this particular world, a person is considered as smart when that employee goes out of the job and starts something of his own. And this particular third category, employee to entrepreneur, is seen with a lot of examples, with a lot of success stories, which make this journey worthwhile. For instance, there are many people who have done like that, but I would like to mention only one person because we can relate to him very quickly, and because that person is an iconic entrepreneur in this country, India. And his name is Mr. Narayan Murthy, the person who created Infosys somewhere in the late 80s and created some of the finest, I would say, billionaires within the company among his employees with his own work. And he was working. First, he started with an institution called IIM Ahmedabad, where he was IT analyst or something like that. Then he joined also another computer company. And then he saw the opportunity. And this is how he became, chucked everything. In fact, the story goes that even he took the ornaments of his wife, gold ornaments of his wife, Sudha, and used them as collateral for getting his bank loan. And later on, he built what this particular story is all about. So this is not just one story. There are many stories of this kind, but they are not so well known, and that's why I mentioned him as the iconic example from an employee to the entrepreneur in the same field in which you are. Then there are many more people I know, and I'm very fortunate and proud that almost 20 students, I was last night counting, that how many of my students who were my students at one time and became employee into very large mega corporations and multinational companies and consulting firms and this and that, and then who have checked it all and have become entrepreneur. And I was very, very happy to see that out of the 20 people who were almost becoming the CEO of that particular company, checked it either after becoming the one or before that, and then they started, their own. One of the persons who was the managing director of the Reader's Digest, one of the very, very well-known magazines, I spoke to him last night. He also did his PhD under me. And so I asked him that exactly how you feel. Now, this is the point I'm trying to mention, that the journey is of elation. The journey is of excitement. The journey is exploring those parts of their life which they couldn't have done within the company if they stayed as employee. Now, that doesn't mean that the companies do not have the ability to make employees feel like entrepreneur. In fact, there are some companies which are providing exactly the same experience of being an entrepreneur within the company, and that term is called intrapreneurship. Means entrepreneurship within the company rather than entrepreneurship on your own. And one great example of this particular company, again, is the one which you and I can easily relate to. And that company is called 3M. At one point of time, it was called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, but now it is simply known as a 3M, in USA. Now, this company is having the largest number of patents among its employees on its own name. And this company is asking its employees to be entrepreneur within the ambit of the company. And it is just putting, money behind the mouth is. It is not just saying, but also putting money behind it by saying that 20% of your time within the company is yours. So if you're working here for 8 hours, 2 hours are yours and 6 hours for the company. And for those 2 hours, you can use as much resources as you want of our own company, your own company. Create something new for the company. But the only condition is that you will have to give the first right of refusal or right of first refusal. In other words, that they will be offering what they have produced as worthwhile to the company where they work, to the company from which they took the time, to the company from which they took resources, and then they will sell it as if it is an outside vendor selling it to the company. And the company will evaluate it like any other commercial proposal and make a decision based on commercial viability, profitability, rather than employer-employee relationship, which is neither biased for nor biased against. And as a result, they will be able to create that kind of situation for them. This is the example of entrepreneurship, where the companies are providing that kind of thing. In India, there are many companies like that. I don't want to be a spokesman of one or not, but I'm just giving the examples which are very, very publicly noted, publicly quoted, publicly cited. So in this particular case, again, entrepreneurship, the same qualities, Mr. Goel, which you mentioned, are applicable. That they have the appetite for risk. They have the face to face the failure. They have the insight to draw the experiences from failures rather than just talking about success. Each and everything is a failure, is an experience for them. Each and every thing which is success is a moment of celebrating not only their life, but the life of others around them. Because we know that success doesn't come to a person alone. It comes through the network of the people, of the support that you have built around you. And then only that particular success comes. So given that particular situation, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship both have a very good pathway onwards for employees. So what are the things that can be done? There is an excellent book which I was going through in order to prepare for this particular session. And I was very happy to see that there is exactly, I didn't know at that time that it is the same title that the book had. But when I Googled, I found that there is a book called Employee to Entrepreneur. Someone may think that I did it because I read the book before or borrowed from it. Believe me, I'm not lying. I didn't know. But I knew only after giving the topic and preparing for this thing. And it is given by Steve Glavaski. Now, Steve Glavaski was also an employee turned entrepreneur. He also had a rough time. He also was fired from his own job, real job first time. And then thereafter he worked with KPMG and many other companies. And what he did was that he said how to earn freedom and do work that matters, and for which he gave 11 tips. Again, I'm not here to market his book or market him, to us. What I'm trying to say is that there is a codified support also for this journey, for this evolution, which I now, which I have been mentioning, that it is the golden age of individual entrepreneurship, where chucking your job and picking up something which matters to you most, which provides you the freedom, which provides the joy to others, which adds wealth to the society, and which provides employment to others. Wow, such people are celebrated these days. And even if they fail, nobody minds them. And even if they fail, nobody in the family minds them. In fact, family is very proud of them, that my uncle, my father, my brother, my son, my daughter, my sister, they tried all this and they tried to create this thing. Some of them succeeded, some of them did not. So through your forum, sir, Goel sir, I would like to tell each and every person today who is among the viewers that please think of entrepreneurship either at a job or when you are not in a job. If you are at a job, you will be, I'm sure, lucky in terms of finding some support from your employer. If you are on your own, means that you do not want to do that job, leave it. Try something that you have learned as a business proposition, but only be ready for 2 or 3 things. Number one, please be ready for hard work. Those people who are entrepreneurs, they don't sleep in the night. They never sleep actually. They just sleep as power nappers rather than one regular sleep. They're always on the go kind of persons. So that is number one thing, that please be ready for hard work. Number 2, please identify the value of network. Value it. Give people first something before you ask something from them. Give them something. Because then that way you will be able to show that you are not just a user of the people, but you are also helper of the people. You are also willing to be a part of their life rather than you want them to be a part of your life. So this is the second thing that I would like to say. And the third thing I would like to say is, please pick up good information, good knowledge from wherever you can about how to market your ideas. Because ideas without marketing will be perhaps not that successful or quickly successful as they will be with that. And this is the point where I would like to add that if in case you do not have that ability or competencies, please build some money, a budget for that thing also, and hire professionals so that they can provide you the kind of focused attention that you need in order to succeed your journey from being an employee to an entrepreneur. Being halfway, neither an employee nor an entrepreneur, is a very painful thing. And that can be painful because you did not put all you knew or all you got behind the entrepreneurship. So don't be in two boats and don't think of the past, but think of the future that you will be creating. And what future will that be? Just think of, again, Narayan Murthy, the guy whom I started my thing with, that what a wonderful thing he created. Thank you very much, Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, for giving so elaborate opening remarks. And you mentioned about the pitch and that I have made something, nothing doing. It all depends on the opening batsman. So, and nowadays that because I'm in UK and the season is here of the cricket and the India is playing England from the 25th again in the league. But what Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal mentioned is, yes, an employee, if he even think about to start something of his own, which we now term as an entrepreneurship, is always considered as a fool or a person who is having no smartness because the family, the friends, they always try to underestimate him or her. And that's why, according to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, if you are smart enough, you can do many things. And he has given an example of Mr. Narayan Murthy, a doyen of the IT industry, Infosys. Everybody knows how great the industry is. And he himself says that he assessed his own students. He has taught so many, I think, thousands and thousands of students, but he shortlisted that 20 of them were who were employee of the very big corporations. Nowadays, they have become entrepreneur, and that is the very, very positive aspect. And they are doing very well. And he has given, he says that in many companies encourage yourself, the employees to become the entrepreneur. And that term is an entrepreneur. And he says that one of the companies which is world known is 3M, and they try to push their employees to become entrepreneur, and then and that's why many of the 3M employees, the former employees, have become entrepreneur, and they are working very closely with the company, so the company is never having any hard or harsh feeling against them. And he mentioned that there is a same book, the title. Yes, I also saw that same book, although I have not referred because then it will be again it will be same term that I have copied from that book. The title of that, Employee to Entrepreneur. So these things, but he has given some advice. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, from his own knowledge and wisdom, he says that if any employee wants to become entrepreneur, which he, according to him, everyone can become, but for that you have to do hard work. And in hard work, he mentioned about no sleep, very less sleep. Even while you are sleeping, you are just thinking about your work. So if you have to see to it that you should be ready for that tomorrow, it's not easy because my own personal experience, your family, friends, everybody will quibble what you are doing. You have become nuts. So please be careful. If you want to be an entrepreneur and successful entrepreneur, you have to leave your sleep, and you will be thinking 24/7 only for work. There was a famous advertisement, I will not name, otherwise, as Dr. Agrawal said, you are advertising particular brand, but it says, eat, sleep, and think about everything about your work. Now, the second point, he says, the value, you have to recognize the value of network. And for that, first you become helpful to others. You must think how I can benefit the others. Then you can reap the benefits from them. And that is the value of network. And he says you require a good knowledge for marketing your idea. And that is very, very important. And if he says, if you don't have all these three qualities, then you should have sufficient money so that you can hire professionals and they will do all the work. But then you must have that much faith on them, and you have so much sufficient money for that. So according to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, rather he has appealed also to every employee. I'm sure the employer will not be annoyed with him, but he says that all the employees must have that quality, and they all have the quality. And I would like to add one thing here, Professor Agrawal. In my opinion, A successful employee is who always think that this work, whatsoever he is doing for employer, he is not working for him. He is working for his own organization. The day he will start thinking from that this is my own work, he will qualify whatsoever you have said about the hard work, less sleep, and ideas. Everything will come. The day you will start loving your work, and if you will have that thinking in you that this work belongs to you, not to your boss or to any of the company. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving such a exciting opening and knowledgeable your thoughts. I'm sure the viewers who are watching today will be very much benefited, especially those employees who are either who have joined the work now or who are working for last 20 or years. Thank you very much, Professor Agrawal, once again. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Mr. Paul Penman. Mr. Paul is the Program Director of Digital Schools at Dublin, Ireland. Mr. Paul has over 30 years of experience in business and technology, higher education in teaching, management, and entrepreneurial roles. His current interests include the skills and knowledge required for the fourth industrial revolution and the role of disruptive innovation in education. Welcome, Mr. Paul Perman, on our show. Mr. Paul, you have heard Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Now we would like to know your views, employee to entrepreneur. Mr. Paul Penman, please. Please unmute.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here and to be asked to share something of my experiences. As the theme today is to discuss the journey from employment to entrepreneurship, I feel that I'm in a position to give some insight into this, albeit from a very personal point of view. I've been in the private education field for most of my working life, and I spent the last 20 years or so as an entrepreneur, running my own businesses or in partnership with others. But before that, I was an employee for around 15 years. Although it was quite some time ago, I do recall the move from employment to entrepreneurship quite well. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit of the experiences around money. Not because money is the most important issue, but I hope to illustrate a few points about transitioning into an entrepreneurial role. When I started out on my own, I suddenly didn't have a salary, a regular amount coming in. I had a little money to keep going for a few months. I didn't need much at that time. I was single, I had no children, and I was living at home. However, I can tell you the financial experience became rather different. Having a business meant having a totally new and different set of expenses. I had to pay for rent for the office, stationery supplies, license fees, even staff in those early days. Actually, all kinds of things I would never have considered previously as a salaried employee. Oh, excuse me.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just, I'm sorry, my screen has gone strange.
Okay.
I do apologize. Yes, that's fine now, okay. So, well, from that early stage, I mean, money came in as we got our first customers into our new business. But it had to be used to cover the expenses before I could look after myself. And this, in the very early days, created a lot of uncertainty and anxiety and stress. You know, at some point I even felt, you know, have I made the wrong decision? You know, perhaps I shouldn't really be doing this. This is all too much. You know, there's too much worry and sleepless nights, just as Dr. Mohan mentioned, these kinds of worries and these kinds of experience came very early in my career as an entrepreneur. I mean, we couldn't even be certain there would be enough to cover our costs, let alone pay ourselves anything at that point in time. However, fortunately, things went reasonably well in the early days. And after about 4 or 5 months, my accountant said that I could take a small dividend just when my personal bank account had hit just about zero. I can tell you it was a really satisfying moment, a real reward for a lot of hard work and evidence that I'd actually made a good choice. And it reignited my motivation to build the business. On top of that, though, in those few short months, I'd done a lot of things I'd never done before. I'd taught myself bookkeeping, for example, and I'd negotiated purchase deals. I'd built a website and designed brochures, many other things besides. I think the point I'm making, though, is that by going into business for yourself, you need to be able to tolerate uncertainty a lot. It can be tough when money is tight. You may have to chase customers for payment, and your cash flow may be strained. You may have to worry about getting new customers. You may get customers who complain. You can't always be perfect. And you'll put time into things that don't always work, or at least you have to be very patient to see the results of your efforts. Okay, so that's the stressful side, but I don't want to put anybody off. I'd like to say that for me, the upside far outweighs the negatives. Of course, there can be financial rewards, and success in business often means earning a lot more than being on a salary, but it goes far beyond that for me. I've had the opportunity to be involved in creating new products and systems. I've developed software platforms, I've established offshore offices. I've worked with a lot of really capable and interesting people, and I've traveled the world. However, more importantly, I've seen thousands of students benefit from the education programs my business has provided. And I've created well-paid jobs for hundreds of people. And all this has been very satisfying and exciting. Also, you're much more the master of your own time and destiny. You're much more able to decide what you want to do and when and how you want to do things. And this may be very different from being in an employed role. So, can I give any advice to anyone looking to become an entrepreneur? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that you need to look after your mental and physical health. I personally do a lot of running and swimming. And this not only helps me to relax and handle stress, but it helps me to focus on creative and challenging work. I'm not saying that everyone needs to become an athlete, but some form of healthy pastime, be that exercise or reading for pleasure or social activity, spending time with the family, and being away from the business for a little time is a real must. I'd also add that getting enough sleep is essential. And I do take Dr. Agarwal's point that, you can be, up all night thinking about things, living and breathing in your business, but do try to get enough sleep. And I must say that I don't always handle stress as well as I could. And I've had plenty of sleepless nights, and at times felt very worried about business issues. But I've learned over time that it's much better, even in the face of difficulties, to maintain a positive outlook, and that physical and social activities away from work, at least for a small, short time, very much help to do that. Secondly, I believe you need to create a structure and routine to your everyday existence. As your own boss, you're not really required to clock in and clock out at particular times or have a fixed work schedule. And again, this is something I've learned over time. Being an entrepreneur means you have to work well beyond an employee's working hours, and you have to be very adaptable to changing circumstances. Also, entrepreneurship is invariably a creative pursuit, and you have to put a lot of time and effort into deep work. So I'd also recommend developing healthy habits around planning your work and organizing your activities. If you don't, there are plenty of other things in life to distract you. So I try to follow a routine where I get my challenging work done in the mornings, writing proposals and specifications, or reviewing processes, or creative discussions, for example. I then prefer to get the lighter, more routine work done later in the day, the administration, the answering of short emails. But that's when I'm less fresh, but I don't need to be at 100%. I think it's also a good idea to track your activities and compare them against your targets, so you really know where you're going. I try to plan out what I do during the course of a day or a week or a month and check in as to whether I've achieved my targets. And for this, I keep a particular type of journal that allows me to plan and evaluate my activities in a flexible way. So, to sum up, I think that when someone sets out to be an entrepreneur, they're most likely to be motivated by improving their financial position, or being in more control of their destiny, or bringing a creative idea to life. And I couldn't agree more with all of those aspirations. But at the same time, we have to recognize there are challenges, and you need to have a certain mindset and discipline to make a success of it, as well as recognize that it's really a very different way of life to that of working for someone else. So that's all I have today, unless you have any more questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for giving your views. And what Mr. Paul says that he is having his own personal experience, and he shared few of them. And but few things he agreed with what Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal says. But as far as the sleep is concerned, he says no, you require enough sleep. Then only you will be fresh enough to take proper decisions when you are becoming an entrepreneur. And he says one should learn how to tolerate for tough times, because there will be tough times. You don't know what is going to happen today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So one has to be very, very tolerable. One should be very calm and see whatsoever. For that, he says you should have a good mental as well as health, physical health. And for that, he says, I used to do workouts every day, swimming, etc. But whatsoever you want to do, one should keep his mental or her mental and physical health intact. So then the decisions what you are taking, because you have to take decisions at that time, you require your mental and physical health proper. And he also says you should be very adaptable, because so many things will come. You have to adapt, you have to change your strategies and whatnot. And he has used the word that is healthy habits. He says you should have a healthy habits for planning. You should not be destructive with so many things which are happening every day in your life, but you must keep your healthy habits so that your thoughts, your planning should go properly to be a successful entrepreneur. And he says if we have such types of things, then one can be a very, very successful entrepreneur. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for giving such a good advice. I'm sure all is at least the youth who are watching this, those who think what is the addition, why we should do the go for the health, and especially the mid-age people, employees with lots of tummies in India, eating habits are so bad with so much sweets, etc., etc. But I'm sure your advice, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to leave all those things and try to be healthy. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul, for giving your views. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and she is Dr. Sonia Singh. Dr. Sonia Singh is the Director of TOS Global Management at Dubai, UAE. TOS Global Management, an education and management consultancy company with operations in India, UAE, Spain, and Italy. For over 20 years, she served in India and abroad in different capacities. Previously, Dr. Sonia Singh served as Group HR Director at Lim Scan, one of the leading oil and gas companies with 8 offices around the world, operations in 56 countries, and more than 800 employees on board. She is recipient of the Education Excellence Award and honored by Minister of Education and Training, the Kingdom of Tonga, for the support to African community for higher education. Recognized for her excellent work in academics and corporate in and outside India, she appeared in Coffee Book Table launched in India, UK, and UAE. Welcome, Dr. Sonia Singh, on our show. Dr. Singh, you have heard what Professor Dr. Agrawal as well as Mr. Paul has mentioned, and they both mentioned that there are skills which can be integrated in anybody, and especially the employees who have some experience in the field, and if they want to become entrepreneur, they can do it. Only thing is that they have something like Mr. Paul mentioned about the healthy lifestyle as well as healthy thoughts, planning, habits. And Mr. Professor Agrawal says you have to leave your sleeps, hard work, which is required, as well as for that purpose, both have given their views. We would like to know from you, because you are an example from employee to entrepreneur. We would like to know your views on employee to entrepreneur. Dr. Sonia Singh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Goel. That's, it's one of the most beautiful discussion actually, because I feel that it's very challenging journey, as if I can see from my life, it's really very challenging. And, but once you accept this challenge, you enjoy the best quality of your life.
Excuse me, Dr. Singh, can you come in the center? You are
okay.
at one side of the screen because it's a live telecast, so we want that people should
see. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine
somewhat,
now.
Somewhat more on the.
Okay.
Yes, now yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, you have shifted that side.
Okay. Okay, that's fine now.
Yeah, if you are sitting like this, then fine. And
yeah, fine.
Yes,
that's fine. Yeah. So this is one of the most beautiful thing, and I saw, like, the Dr. Paul, he has his own experiences and the hardship what an entrepreneur has to face. I would like to share my experience, and that's how you can prepare yourself to be an entrepreneur. Once you start thinking, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, very first thing I have observed in my life that two type of people normally become entrepreneur if you don't have a setup from your background, like if your fathers or your ancestors, they don't have a business. So the people who don't have responsibility, if they starts in their early age, if I'm saying there is responsibility, any kind of the financial or emotional responsibility to fulfill, so they are very successful in the business because their whole time goes only for the business. And second one, who already oblige their all the responsibilities. Like me, my children are now settled down. I have started thinking of myself. So I came, okay, let me start something of this entrepreneurship. But most importantly is the developing the entrepreneurship mindset. It is one of the most challenging tasks because, you will be the owner of your organization. Being an entrepreneur, like I was a group HR director of a company, yes, I have to take many decisions which owner has to say to me. Even if I don't want, but I have to take it. Because you cannot deny at that point of time. But already I have started, okay, I have to start something of my own. So I have started learning to say no, where I feel this decision is not going to deflect in the business goals of the company. So what I would say is, if you really think, yes, you want to be an entrepreneur in some point of time, start saying no. Evaluate, analyze all the decisions. So it will be easy for you once you start your own business. You can see, oh, this decision is going to benefit to me or it is not going to benefit to me. So think like that. Being a professor of economics, my first class used to start with the students. Even if you are a manager, think it's your own business. That's why we call it business management. Because if you think like an owner, you can easily build the organization. Second point, I would say start small. So I'm just talking when you are not an entrepreneur. This is how I started my journey. It's not that one day, 2 day, or 1 year. It took years, because I was on a fixed job, getting a handsome salary every month, a fixed date of getting a salary. So it was not easy for me to leave it. So what I have done is, I used to make the plan. I used to progress every day. I try to give at least 1 to 2 hours of my business ideas. Maybe the product, service. I used to learn about the legal technicalities, because there are so many legal technicalities of the business which you want to do. I try to find out how can I market myself, what strategies I can make, how I can do the tie-ups, who will be my advisors, mentors. I used to learn. I used to progress every day. I used to make a notes. Everything I used to jot down. Because, many things needs planning. Once you come in the business, you need a lot of things which needs a lot of planning, time, patience, research, because there is no U-turn. As you rightly said, it's Dr. Agarwal said that it's not, if you are somewhere in between, not on the job, not in a successful entrepreneur, so it's a very difficult situation. Because once you are in an entrepreneurship journey, it's hard to take a U-turn. Like one of the most crucial question when I thought, okay, I have to do something, one of the most crucial question before me was what to start. So I would say, follow your passion. Think in which you are comfortable. See what is your experience, your qualification, network, or maybe something you find, okay, in this geographical region, this is required. So maybe you can do a lot of things. Dr. Agarwal has gave the example of the Narayan Murthy. But there are many examples in the current days where the young people are doing, and they are doing in a suburban areas, starting their own digital marketing company. Very cheap. Labor is cheap. Rent is cheap. And they are getting the businesses across world, because it's very economical and you are giving the best quality. So geographical location nowadays, as from my point of view, is very, very important. One most important thing, once you have an idea, try to test on your family or friends or colleagues. Take them as your prospective customers. As 3M company, they are the company, they are giving the opportunities to their employees, but this is not the case for all of us. 99% of the companies, they don't like if their employees think they want to be an entrepreneur, because then the mindset changes. So they just want that a slave of 9 to 5 job, or whatever they want to say. It's like, the horse who just can see straight, that's it. But as an organization, as your own owner, you have to look around. You have to do a lot of analysis. You cannot take a decision which is going to, harmful impact on your whole organization, because so many people are your stakeholders. Once you discuss the ideas with your family, friends, you will have some idea if you are going in a right direction or not. Why? Because 90% will criticize you on your idea. But remember, that criticism is the drawback of your idea. So you have to improve on it. And if someone will appreciate few of your ideas, so that means that is your key point. You need to make it more improved version. You have to work. That is your key thing, which maybe no one else is giving, or which is touching the heart of a customer. So very important to discuss the ideas. Next, very important, discussion with the like-minded people. When I came to UAE, I was a professor with Amity University in India. You all know the Amity. Once I came to UAE, I started my journey as a professor. Then I come into consultancy, met up with different type of people who are into different consultancy business. I found everyone has their own, the success stories, failure stories, they started the business, then came back to the job, then again started the business. What are the rules, regulations of the UAE? Because mostly we were focusing on the UAE that time. So, I learned a lot of things. And most importantly, the people to whom I was discussing, they used to share the same energy, vibes, passions, and ambition as I am. So discussions are very important with the same type of people. And still my business has not started. I was just taking the ideas. I was just, trying to explore the things. Because when I start something my own, again, I need to be 100% protected with all kind of drawbacks. And these guys to whom you will discuss are your biggest motivators, because everyone has some or the other failure. So you can always go back to them. Prepare an escape plan. Very, very important. I have seen, even when I was on a job, I used to say, okay, I will do a business. I will be an entrepreneur. But I never prepared an escape plan from my corporate job. When I'm saying, Mr. Paul has rightly said, like, the financial thing is the most important thing in a business. So if you really want to do any business, but we never get the courage to quit a fixed, handsome salary, it's most difficult part of the entrepreneurship journey. So, but I would say if you are seriously looking, try to keep aside some fund for your business at an early age, depending on what kind of the business you want to start. Because once you start your entrepreneurship journey, first 3 years are very crucial, and you need most of your financial resources. So you must be strong enough to leave your job. And if you will find the first generation business owners, they have done the same thing. If you read the Narayan Murthy story, yes, he has pledged the ornament of his wife. Then his wife used to work also. She was on the job to support her husband. She was taking care of the family. That's very important, because if you don't have that kind of the financial stability, or you have a responsibility, you can never do a business. It is very difficult to come out from that situation. You have a kids, their education is most important. You have a parents, their medical needs are there. You have a family to run. So financial stability is very, very important, especially for the first generation business owners. So there should be some kind of the financial stability at your back. Everyone has said don't sleep or sleep. Yes, you sleep or don't sleep, but ready to work for hard work and risk. Simple. Because, I'm a very, if I don't sleep, I cannot work. I need a full sleep. And you call it a power nap, you call it, a long sleep, but I have to sleep. But I try that in night, I finish my all jobs, make down a notes what I have to do in the morning. And as per my time, or as per, my first meeting, I make my timings, what time I have to wake up, I have to do a little bit exercise, kids, everything. I just plan accordingly. Because being an entrepreneur, I'm a mother also. I'm a wife also. So you have to take care of all the responsibilities. So my suggestion is, don't quit your job during the initial phase of business. Rather, invest twice of time. That means do your job and take care of your business also a little bit. And be prepared to the word of unlimited risk. See, as an employee, yes, you have a time schedule, you have a free time, but as a business owner, you have to think 24/7 hours. That's true. There are days when you have a sleepless nights. Something is coming, something you want to do. Nowadays, it's very easy to market your products due to this, the virtual world. You are sitting where the best example is right now, I am in UAE, Mr. Goel is some other country we are the people from Dublin, from India. So, everyone is into different place and we are meeting together. So this Corona has given a lot of things. I would say that these things are easily and possible, and you can do the meetings. Earlier, I have to travel, 1 day trip and coming back just to discuss and just to have a meeting. But now it's very simple to have a virtual meeting as per the time frame. So you can easily find out the time. So it's try to market your product. And if you have everything ready, don't wait. Just start. Believe me, initially you will feel like, oh my God, what I'm doing. But once you will start, you will enjoy. You will enjoy the best quality of your life. And if you will delay, and if you will not start now, once you are prepared fully, remember, you need to do again more homework. Because this word is, we will say, no breakfast is free. Very challenging. Everything, every day, things keeps on changing. We have to be up to date. You cannot 100% rely on your employees in the initial stages of the business. 90% of the decisions you have to take yourself. Once you are reaching to one level, yes, you can distribute the work. You can easily, fix the responsibilities. But initially, 6 to 7 years, or by the time your business is not reached to one particular level, everything depends on you. So if you are ready, start. But plan not just 1 day, 2 day, 1 hour, or 1 year. Plan from now onwards, even if you are planning to do your business after 6 or 7 years. That's for my say, Dr. Goel, Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for giving your views. And what she says, if anybody wants to become entrepreneur, there are two conditions. Either you should have no responsibility and you are free. So then you can take a risk and then whatsoever you want to do. But if you have responsibility, then it's difficult, it's not easy, or you are free from responsibility. And she has given her own example that once her responsibility went, because she was working in a very big corporate and she was getting very fat check, although she has not disclosed the amount, and but she was happy with that. But once she has, when her children are settled, and then she decided to, so that responsibility part is very important if you want to become an entrepreneur. If you are having responsibility, plus see to it that your responsibility should not be there, so that you can take risk and you can concentrate on your work. And according to her, you are going to be the boss once you become an entrepreneur. And one very important aspect of the change, the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur is to say no. Because employee cannot say no in many conditions, but an entrepreneur should know how to say no. And that is very, very important. She says you must evaluate yourself, see what are the plus points, where you are not having that strength, and then think. And then she says, try to learn legal technicalities, be smart. But if whatsoever passion you have, if you want to do a particular business, develop it and go ahead. But before that, test your idea with your family or with your friends or associates, so that they will be the real who are going to give you views, whether good or bad. And she says 99% may criticize you, but don't worry, it's good. Then you have chance to improvise yourself. Similarly, somebody will appreciate you, but think that how we can improvise more. So all these things she says, and she says, although Professor Dr. Agrawal mentioned about 3M, she says, no, many companies, very few like 3M, but otherwise no company wants that employee should become an entrepreneur, because they don't want to create their own competition. And she says you must have an escape plan, where if you are working somewhere as an employee, that if you are going to become an entrepreneur, what is your security, financials, things which is very, very important. And she also mentioned about the support from the family. She says even Mr. Narayan Murthy, who has built up so much big entrepreneur, but it is not possible if he was not supported by his own wife, Miss Sudha Murthy. And everybody knows that not only she supported, but she was also I must say, the legend herself. She has was working, and how she has created a new thing, even that conventional culture of Tatas and whatnot. So this is, according to her, you require the family support. And in case if you are ready, please don't wait. Jump immediately, take a decision. Otherwise, you will be late and you will miss the bus. Thank you very much, Dr. Singh.
Dr. Goel, I want to say one more thing. Very small thing, very, very small thing. See, there is a competitive clause in every organization. That means if I'm doing an critical job, I cannot do, if I leave the job, I cannot do or start a business of the same field, or I cannot join the same organization. So it's very important to understand the legalities in the country, your contract, everything is very, very important, how you will convert it.
Yes, you are right. There is always a clause, but people get some way out and they are doing it, but advisable not to do such type of thing. Otherwise, once you become big, you will be in trouble that your previous employer may bring to you. Thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for giving your views. Now, my next panelist guest is Professor Mohammad Naved Khan. Professor Khan is B.Tech Electrical MBA PhD. He is the Professor of Management Studies and Research at Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. He is also the UGC Adjunct Professor at the School of Business at Central University, Jammu. Professor Naved has over 22 years of experience in teaching and research in higher education. He is a recipient of Emerald Literary Award from Emerald Publishing UK. He regularly conducts workshops and FDPs for management professionals on latest trends in business research. He has co-authored books and guided 28 doctoral scholars and published around 100 research papers in top-ranked journals. Welcome, Professor Mohammad Naved Khan on our show. Professor Khan, you have heard Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, Mr. Paul, and Dr. Singh, and they all have given their views. Now, we would like to know from you, your views on employee to entrepreneur. Professor Mohammad Naved Khan, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goel. At the outset, I wish to thank Professor Mohan Agarwal sir for inviting me to this conference and connecting me through this platform to you, who in your capacity as chairman or Organ Donation Foundation of India has been doing wonderful work by raising awareness among the masses, removing misconceptions, hesitancy vis-a-vis organ donation in India. So it's indeed a noble work that you are doing, sir. Professor Agarwal, apart from being an academician par excellence, is a wonderful human being. And in fact, the topic that he decided for today's interaction is very relevant, especially during times of COVID-19 pandemic. It was pleasure listening to Paul, and it was all the more interesting and insightful because, what basically was happening was, we were listening to the experiences of somebody who is an entrepreneur himself. Then Sonia shared very relevant thoughts which are to be kept in mind by an entrepreneur, and particularly advice related to time management and shouldering responsibilities and maintaining work-life balance, and that an entrepreneur has to be a risk taker. Now, these are all very interesting feedbacks and insights which have been shared. Now, as far as I am concerned, what I would like to share is that, see, entrepreneurship isn't usually worth the risk, usually. And that is why, in fact, very many people do not plunge into it. So there are researchers who have found that initially this may not be worth the risk, especially in financial terms. But anyway, people plunge into it, and they are drawn to it for various reasons. Some of them want to be their own bosses, or some of them want to pursue it as a personal passion. So there are certain steps which, in fact, I think one needs to keep in mind when one wants to move from an employee or transforms himself or herself from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So first of all, we need to ask that is that person or am I moving or trying to transition or in a way moving from the role of being an employee to an entrepreneur, because I am hard pressed for time, or is it because I don't like to work, or I don't like the job, I hate the job, I need a change. So in this context, something very interesting I came across, that in the Gallup, one of the surveys done by Gallup in US, they found that 70% of the employees, they're disengaged at work. So they are not at all interested in what they're doing. So this, in fact, paints a very bleak picture of the corporate life, that people are not interested in doing what they're doing or in the job in which they are. So if you hate the job and that is why you want to shift, so starting a business may not be a solution for you. Why? Because, if you are thinking that it will be very easy, it will be very smooth, so one has to keep in mind that it may be really hard work, it may be highly stressful at times, low pay may be there, and in fact, at times there may be no pay at all. So you have to, remember that it cannot be a quick fix solution, that is moving from an employee to the role of an entrepreneur. So you have to be very careful about it. So if you are ready to be your boss, it's time to start thinking. You have to keep in mind that you have to prepare yourself. You have to see to it that when you are transitioning from a salaried worker to self-employed, it will be really rough. It will be difficult. It may be risky. It may be stressful. And if you want to be successful, or you want to be master of your destiny, so there are certain steps that you have to keep in mind. So, before we take the plunge, we have to remember that if you want your business to have longevity, you should be starting small. You should be starting slowly. So you should be saving yourself time. You should be saving yourself money and a lot of headaches by preparing before you quit your existing job. Or as Sonia was pointing out, it's not necessary that always we have to quit the job. So what some researchers have said that what can be done here is that one can at the same time start working on some kind of activity. So what they call that build a side hustle. So you don't have to immediately commit yourself to a certain activity, and by the time you learn the tricks, and by the time you're pretty sure of what you want to do, and if you have planned properly, then only you should be shifting. So you have to develop your idea, and you have to be very clear about the niche segment that you will be trying to address. In fact, there are some very interesting examples in this context. And it has been noted that if you plan out properly, just like, several individuals, for example, I remember the case of Cara Goldin. She's the founder and CEO of Hint Waters in US. So she tested the idea. She tested the idea first on the family. So in fact, the family was the focus group, the initial focus group. She got feedback from the family. Then she created healthier beverages for the public at large. So the first focus was the family. So in fact, now she is also into, she's the founder of Kara Network. So it provides digital resources for entrepreneurs. So the best business ideas, in fact, they try to solve a problem. So as she realized that there was a problem, that people wanted something that was not having any kind of artificial additives. So the aim should be to fill holes in the market and provide something that consumers really need. So you have to identify the niche. You have to do a lot of research before you actually plunge yourself into entrepreneurship. And remember that today it's become very easy. You can do a lot of research. So many online resources are there. So you don't have to work on your startup while you are on the clock, because you should not be neglecting work if employed somewhere, because I believe that one should not be burning bridges, because if you are not paying attention to the job where you currently are, or in the organization where you're currently employed, then in a way you will be leaving a bad impression. So when you move out, the idea is that you should be going in for velvet divorce. That is, when you're quitting job, you want to start your own business, your previous employer can be part of your network, can be of great help to you in, for example, getting businesses, in, for example, connecting to others who may give you businesses. So another thing is that one need to test the market trends. So you have to be aware that the area or for example, the business that you want to start, is there any scope? Where exactly will it be 10 years down the line? So to project the success of your idea, try out your idea. Try it on small groups, go in for market analysis, look for potential customers, try to find who all competitors exist in that, conduct interviews, surveys, and then only plunge into it. Now, you should be ready with a business plan. So after you have gathered information, done, personal research in that particular topic, so you need to have, you need to focus on a strategy. So refine your idea. You should be having a business plan. That plan will be acting as a roadmap for you. So roadmap, before you launch your business, it should be there with you. So the business plan details should be ready with you, and then only you will be maybe able to convince others, for example, to join with you. So it's always advisable to have somebody assisting you, a person who co-founds, and generally research tells us that if co-founders have been there, these organizations have been more successful. So plan your marketing strategy, your business budget, and you have to be ready. Again, as Sonia was pointing out, as Paul was sharing earlier, that we have to be ready for the risk. It's not that, it will be a cakewalk. So you have to build your networks. Going out on your own doesn't mean that you have to grow a startup alone, or it's not necessary that you will always be, starting a business right from scratch. You can, buy an existing business because suppose you have deeper insights into it. You have done a lot of research. So your network should include experts in the area in which you want to work. So maybe with the help of those experts, maybe with the insights, what you can do is rather than starting from scratch, you can maybe buy some existing business, or maybe if someone is just as entrepreneurs do, so somebody maybe is willing to sell a business, so you may grow that business further. So buy that business. Imagine if someone is willing to teach you how to run a business, that is always more profitable and that is always more sustainable. So when you are trying to make a move from employee to entrepreneur, so another thing that we need to keep in mind is that being a business owner is not for everyone. So, but with passion, and if you have a solid plan, you are on your way to being a successful entrepreneur. You have to seek the advice of people who are more smarter than you, who are more experienced than you. So you have to learn, for example, to decode things. You have to learn, for example, that who are the people who can give you better inputs. Trust yourself. You have to push yourself at times to the limits, as Paul was sharing with us. So, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind that you have to stay healthy, and for that, you have to take a break also at times. So, in fact, before you take the plunge, and remember that plunge at times may be a scarier thing. It may be a difficult thing. It may be the scariest part as far as your entire activity is concerned. So, no matter how much you are planning, or how much preparations you go for, you should always be ready. That they may be at times issues that may pop up before you, about which you may not have planned, but that is normal as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, or you being entrepreneur, or anybody being entrepreneur is concerned. That is very normal. So the key is not to let fear prevent you from taking a step forward. So we have to keep in mind that there is never a right time to start a business. So once you have reached your deadline, once you have planned out things, you just take the leap. So at that point, you get an inner feeling is there in you that yes, now you're ready for it. You are ready for taking the plunge. But it's not necessary that always the activity or the business that you have set up, it may always be a successful business. So in fact, one of the researchers that I'd like to share from Gustavo Manso at the University of California, Berkeley, found that self-employment does not pay off financially, but it pays off in some other very interesting ways. So financial benefits, they don't usually come from entrepreneurship itself, but he found that they may come in some other form, say, for example, in the form of higher wages, for example, when you return to the workforce. So a lot of research has been done in this domain, that people, for example, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, they set up a business, and once it was up and running, then they shifted again back and they started doing jobs somewhere. So in fact, according to Manso's theory, so why people might try entrepreneurship and then head back to the labor market just a year, or for example, 2 or 3 or 4 years later. So he realized and he observed that stepping away from a job to start a company, at times it offers a chance to experiment with a new idea and to see whether it works or not. And if the idea works, the entrepreneur stays self-employed. If the idea doesn't work, the person, tries for another job. So individuals, who attempt to be entrepreneurs, but at some point abandon that entrepreneurship in say maybe 2 years time, they are achieving approximately the same earnings as similar individuals who have not attempted to be entrepreneurs. So whether your stint as an entrepreneur pays off financially or not, it will of course depend upon the person. It will depend upon the career. It will depend upon the business, in question. But as far as his research was concerned, he found that entrepreneurship needn't be a lifelong commitment. It's possible to set up or for example, found a startup and then later return to your established company. And in fact, sometimes what happens is that it's the best way of ensuring returns on your investments. So owning a successful company can be one of the most rewarding and feelings imaginable, but you may have to be prepared to face many professional and personal trials. Transitioning from employee to an entrepreneur, it can require tremendous effort, tremendous amount of growth, tremendous amount of courage, and of course, at every corner, every step, you will be facing a lot of risk. So the financial freedom and the pride at times, that the company that you will be founding, that will be providing to you. So it may, in fact, keep you motivated, and it can be worth every ounce of stress and energy, that, for example, you may or problems that you may experience while you are on this journey. So with this, I'm through. Thank you very much, and I hope that.
Thank you very much, Professor Mohammad Naved Khan, for giving such a detailed thing about the employee to employer. And only I will just say one point because the time is not there. He says that 70% as per research are not interested in their own job. And he says if you are not interested in a job, you will not be a successful entrepreneur because you have that mentality. First, you love your job, then become a successful entrepreneur. Thank you very much. Time is not this. I will not be able to summarize the thing, what you have said, but you have made it very clear. Now, my first question goes, and I request all the panelists to give a reply in 30 seconds or maximum 1 minute. My first question goes to Professor Dr. Mohan Lal Agarwal. Professor Dr. Mohan Lal Agarwal, don't you think these entrepreneurship qualities are like music, singing? That's God's gift. A mindset, different mindset. Somebody wants a lazy life, and somebody is. And I will give the example you mentioned only about the Mr. Narayan Murthy. Why not Dhirubhai Ambani? Why not Mr. Oberoi, the famous chain of Oberoi hotels? They were all employees, and they become the most successful entrepreneur. Yeah. What you say about this, Professor Doctor? Please,
I think you have hit the nail again very well. There are certain qualities which are common among all examples that you have mentioned, and they took advantage of those qualities. They understood them very well. And without doubt, I think what Professor Navid said, passion is extremely important. That is, without doubt, they had the passion. The second thing they had was that they had people managing ability, which is not given God-given gift only, but it is also cultivated. So to answer your question precisely, some of the qualities are no doubt born and some of the qualities are developed.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Agarwal. Now my question goes to Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul, we have seen many cases when the entrepreneur become an employee. What do you say about that?
Well, the reverse. Huh?
So the question is that many cases where entrepreneurs have become employees. Well, I think that Professor Mohammed made a good point earlier on that not everyone can be successful in their entrepreneurial career, but there's no shame in that, and there's no shame in going back to working. That hasn't been my case, but I have seen other people do that for sure. But if that is that case, that you've tried something and it hasn't worked out, don't feel that people are going to think badly of you, and please do return to a positive approach within an employment circumstance.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Now, my
Sir,
question.
can I just
Yeah.
take 10 seconds? Because I
Yes,
thought it
please.
was a wonderful question that you asked. I would say that the transition from employee to entrepreneur and employee or an employee entrepreneur to employee should be seamless, right? In other words, that there shouldn't be a defeat forward or retreat. It is, it is like a very common thing to happen. That,
Okay.
according to me, should be the way.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Agarwal. Now, my question goes to Dr. Sonia Singh. Dr. Sonia Singh, as you being you mentioned about your own thing, but it was seen that families mainly family prefers fixed income and future security. And they feel that the salaried income is good and the job is good. Why to go for it? And they discourage. What you say about this?
See, it depends on the type of the family background you are in, or also it depends on if, say, for example, in my case, my husband was very promoting. Like he always used to say, yes, do something of your own. You have the capabilities. And he is himself in a job. And he was an entrepreneur earlier, and he came to the job. And I was always in a the job, and I'm into entrepreneur. So we have shifted our roles, and yes, family needs a fixed income because we have a lot of responsibilities, especially in the country like India, where we don't have a social responsibility. We don't have any kind of the backup from the government, right? But if you talk about the European countries, USA and all, they give a lot of benefits to their their citizens. So it's okay for them because their future is secure when they are become old. Why we are saving? We are saving for our old age. We are saving for the kids' education. We are saving for our health. You're right. They are giving almost free. And in India, we have to spend a lot of amount of money.
Okay.
So it's very important how government is also promoting, from the
Okay,
back.
thank you very much, Dr. Singh. We will have a different topic on this also sometime. Now, my question goes to Professor Navid. Professor Navid, as you mentioned about the startups, don't you think an employee, if he is having that entrepreneurship, should start investing in a startup with a co-ownership as a seed investment and see if that will be successful, then leave the job and become a full-time entrepreneur? What do you say about that?
Yes, I think it's a very interesting point that you have raised. What I feel is that, yes, individuals, in fact, this is one of the safest routes. That is, if you, while working, you join hands with somebody who may be your co-founder, for example, in the context of a startup, and you keep learning and you keep experimenting while you're already employed. But it doesn't mean that one should be neglecting the work where in the organization where the person is employed. And that's why you need a co-founder or somebody who's assisting you. And then at some point, when you realize that, okay, now is the right time for you to transition, then you can take the leap and you can shift and then try your hand at, as far as that organization is concerned that you are founding.
Okay, thank you very much. So viewers, you have seen today how the experts have given their opinion, and their opinion is very, very clear. First thing, if you are working somewhere, love the work and consider that work is your own, and then decide for the entrepreneurship. And for that, save the money, take the advices from mentors, legal technicalities, and then only, but family support is very important. If you have a good family support, you can be a successful entrepreneur. In one way, people say, if you cannot manage your own family, how you can going to manage your own the business, which is very, very important. So, and I'm sure today's our media conference is so enlightening and so much. I must say that our speakers have given so much knowledgeable advices. The viewers and especially the youth, if you at least follow 50% of the advices given by all our panelists, you will be a very, very successful entrepreneur. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by v4News, Global TV, v4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our enjoy in our evening program of Kal Aaj or Kal Lal Goel ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. to bring somebody whose life journey is very inspirational and is a role model for the youth. And today my chief guest who is going to narrate his own life journey is Mr. Rahul Gupta. He is the Vice President of Bank of America from New Jersey, USA. He is going to join, and he will narrate his own life story, how inspirational his life story is. So please tune in for Kal Aaj aur Kal Lal Goel ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Thank you very much, Dr. Sonia Singh. And thank you very much, Professor Naveed Khan, for giving such a knowledgeable advices to those who wants to leave or who wants to start a new business as an entrepreneur. Thank you very much. And thank you all the viewers. Thank you for watching our shows. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.